Okay, welcome to Parkour Coach Companion episode 10, and I'm here out on the road this time. I'm with Jake Harris, and we are currently at his gym, which is in Grimsby.
Yes.
So, Jake, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
Nice to be invited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, wicked, man.
Or video cast.
Yeah, so
A bit of both.
we've had this is a slightly different episode. If you're listening on Spotify, you can watch this on YouTube, and it's in real time. So we've set the camera up. We're in the gym. You can probably hear the echo. So if you'd rather watch like that, then go ahead over to YouTube. But if not, then carry on listening on Spotify. So Jake,
Yes.
we've just had a session, haven't we?
Yes. What, for 4 hours I think we've just been training for?
Yeah, very sweaty 4 hours in
Yeah,
the
it's
sun.
very warm today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about the gym, tell us a bit about your brand and what you're doing in the north.
Okay, so I have been training since 2005, I think. 15 years I've been training for now. Started with friends from school, things like that, and then we kind of made our own team, Team Reality, kind of a bit of a cheesy name, but we've stuck with it over the years. We have progressed, a lot of us have gone down different avenues, but then we have become kind of a coaching company more than anything, and we now own our own gym, which we're sat in now. You kind of see it in the background behind me, and we've been teaching for, dare I say, 12 years maybe, on and off, teaching for 12 years, and the gym opened just before lockdown, then lockdown got in the way, and we've just reopened a week ago, so it would have been end of July, beginning of August.
Feel good to be opened up again then?
Yeah, it feels very good to be back up and running. It's took a lot of time and effort. There's been a lot of people involved behind the scenes who've kind of made these dreams become true, as cheesy as that sounds. It has been a very long process. It's definitely not an overnight success story or anything like that. We may have the gym, but we've got to keep it open. And that is getting people in the door. Hopefully people will keep coming to it and keep enjoying the space, and as we change things around, give people more and more options to train.
And so you said you've been coaching for like 12 years.
I think so, yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, it's a long time.
Has that been around Grimsby in the area and in different venues that you've hired out then?
Yeah, so we obviously, like everyone in parkour, you teach your friends, don't you? Help each other kind of progress, and if someone learns something that you can't do, you help your friend learn it. And obviously it was those kind of building blocks that we were helping teach each other and the younger people who were kind of training in the area. And then we were approached by some people in the council who were kind of very enthusiastic about us potentially becoming like young community sports leaders, is what it was. And we got given the opportunity to go on a community sports leadership award, which it's almost like you can teach PE style classes. So it wasn't sport specific or anything like that. It was just a general little knowing how to teach kids essentially. But with that, we also got some funding for some gymnastics style equipment. So like the Gym Nova blocks and the Velcro things that are up on the roof that you can't see at home. So we got a lot of that, and then we were teaching slightly. We were doing more event things back then. So we would do parkour workshops at local festivals. We did some near Lincoln. We were branching out a little bit more. We're doing quite a lot of that kind of work for a good few years. And then we were in a facility not too far from here, down the road, and that was an airsofting place. Obviously everything was made of wood, so it was a great opportunity, and we were promised the glitz and the glamour. We thought we were going to be one of the first indoor parkour facilities, and it didn't turn out to be like that.
So when was that?
That would have been 2010, something like that. So we've been a group / team company for 3 years by then. So then we'd moved all our stuff in, and if anyone knows airsofting, there's BBs everywhere. So it was becoming more of a hazard than it was worth. Dark and dingy, dusty, horrible place. We had that, and then we moved into a martial arts room in Cleethorpes. Yeah, in a dojo. Yeah. Cleethorpes is like the town next to Grimsby. They're one and the same thing. I was teaching there for longer than I should have been, really, because the space was so small. Like, it was just not the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then we were very close, I think it was 2 years ago, to moving into an abandoned warehouse on the seafront. Bitterly close. And that fell through at the last minute. And that kind of gave me the kickstart to go, right, I want a facility that is ours. I want to be the key holder. I want to be in charge, essentially. I don't want to have to ring somebody and go, oh, can you let me in?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that kind of gave me the kick up the bum. And we got some help from some some amazing people who kind of, it was almost easy and second nature for them to get the funding that we needed.
So they helped you get the funding for it?
Yeah. So her name's Claire Wallington. She's fantastic, amazing. She's so enthusiastic about things. And she went through Awards for All and Sport England. So we managed to acquire £10,000. And then off that £10,000, I created this. Not just me. I say I, but it's not. Just Neil Hudson, who many people might know from the old Urbanfreeflow days.
Yeah.
It's been me and him kind of spearheading our group for quite a while now. So we've had the facility. We opened 5 weeks before lockdown, and then lockdown came and put down on things.
Yeah, so we were just talking about this before, weren't we, that both you and Neil have some very early connections with the UF, and it's interesting
Yes, we do. Yeah.
It's interesting that in light of recent documentaries like from Kieran Owen, Jimmy the Giant, that Easy particularly has come under a lot of scrutiny about.
Yes.
And you were involved in that. You were like in that kind of.
Yeah. I was a sponsored athlete at the time. Yeah. Very much in the heyday of Urbanfreeflow.
Yeah. So you knew a bit of some of the ins and outs of. Urbanfreeflow and what Easy, how he ran it and everything. So.
Yeah, I was definitely. I'd like to think I was quite close with a lot of the pro team. Kai Willis, Tim Sheaf, and some others in the main team. Neil was a pro athlete at the time, so obviously me and Neil are practically best friends. So without knowing Neil, I wouldn't have been given the opportunity to be part of the sponsored team. So I kind of was almost, what would be the right phrase, on Neil's coattails, so to speak. Like I was always behind Neil's shadow almost. But it gave me the opportunity to travel and meet a lot of people. I spent quite a lot of time in Cambridge, a lot of time in London, Derby, places like that. I've had opportunities that I can't even fathom. Like just not even 18, I was in Dubai for the almost now infamous Dubai Screen trip with the Urbanfreeflow team. Seeing a lot of those people, quite funny. I've done countless performances that I can't even keep track of. Met a lot of people, so it was good. And then towards the downhill part where people were doing a lot of work and not getting paid, and it was there was a lot going on behind the scenes that a lot of people weren't happy with.
Yeah.
So then I think there was a bit of a mass exodus of the main team, the main core of the team. So it would have been, at the time, it would have been Sticky, Johnny, Tim, Callie, Kai Willis, Neil. A lot of them were all kind of like, no, we've had enough of this. And then a lot of those then disbanded and became Storm. So then it kind of grew from there.
Yeah. I was listening to the Motors podcast today on the train here, and they were actually saying about how they want to get Kai on, because they want to talk to him about his amazing drone work that he's doing.
Yeah, he's
but also about
super talented dude.
where Storm is at, because I feel like Storm are receding.
Yeah, it's strange. I think Storm have kind of gone. This is only a personal opinion. They had the huge peak at the beginning with Volume 1, which obviously absolutely put them on the map. Even though a lot of the athletes were all well known in the country anyway and around the world, and then they kind of dipped off, and then they added all the new athletes: Ed Scott, Charlie, is it Sam Petz?
Well, he got injured, didn't he?
Yeah, it wasn't.
He was sponsored.
Yeah, he was in there in some capacity, wasn't he? And then they had that second boom with like light work and the Madrid video with Tim and everyone in. And then they've kind of gone a bit slowed down a bit. I haven't seen much since their last. They did the big clothing collection, didn't they? With there was the beige jumper with the writing on there.
Yeah.
That was, and I can't really. There hasn't been any major Storm projects, so to speak, which I know in the parkour community you're only kind of held by your. It seems to be, if you're not producing some form of content, you can easily fall behind and almost become forgotten about.
And so on that note then, do you think that, I talked about this with Marcus in the previous episode, about this, do you think there is like a north-south divide or a miscommunication or...
Absolutely, 100%. I think I've always thought this, even from travelling back in 2007, I think it was always northerners going down south all the time, and it's even more so for me because a lot of people just don't even know where Grimsby is. Like, I know Nightscape discovered the Humber Bridge and he didn't know it existed, and that's literally around the corner for us. It's like 20 minutes away from my house, so it's almost strange that so many things, and there's so many athletes in the north that deserve so much more of the limelight. It's a weird phrase to use, but or don't get the consideration and spots as well. Some of the cities in the north, Newcastle being almost the most northern city in the UK, of size anyway, how many times do you ever see the big names training in places like that? I know it's a strange one because I know a lot of stuff goes on in London and even further south than that now, but that's like 5 hours away for us, and it's always been a case of we go down there, they don't really come up here.
Well, hopefully that can change. That's why I'm wanting to talk about these things and get it talked about. It's not really like I think most people would agree that there is this kind of feeling that we go down, not many Southerners come up. But at the same time, I'm not like there's no
animosity.
No.
It's not a divide that's we're angry about. Don't get me wrong. There is no problem with us going down south. I would just love to see more named athletes tearing up our spots, because for us northerners, it's always a case of how many times have you seen these people training at IMAX or training in Bristol or Brighton or places like that, but then you think you've got these really good spots and you can't just help imagine but think, what could Ed Scott come up with in this space, or could Tim Champion achieve this jump, or things like that. Over the years, we've been fortunate enough to have quite a lot of athletes come to Grimsby, considering we're such a small town. I know Phil Doyle's been up here. Josh from Storrow also, many moons ago, was up training. Marcus as well, who moved to Australia and is back now. Only the Rated, is that the group? Only the Rated. He's with them. He's been up a couple of times. So we've, especially through me and Neil, we've created a lot of connections, and we have got that kind of history in the parkour community.
Yeah, for sure. And so, on coaching then as well, do you feel like you've developed a style with coaching? Do you feel like there's a a way that you coach? And what have you found that kind of works for you?
So it's funny you should ask that actually, because me and Neil have this, we have a bit of a joke about being good cop and bad cop. So we always joke that I'm the fun coach and he's the serious coach. And I think that's a very good blend to have, especially with parkour, when you're trying to promote freedom of movement, but you've got to keep people safe at the same time. So you don't want to be the type of coach who's like, or you stop, listen, and be on their back, because then that kind of ruins the fun. I've tried so many different sports and activities growing up, and parkour for me was just the freedom and being able to just do it how I wanted to do it, and there was people there willing to help me be better at it, and that's the side I approach. Obviously, I enjoy teaching younger people because they're much more kind of like a sponge. They will take it all in, and you're teaching them the fundamentals, which obviously becomes like the concrete base to what type of athlete they become in the future, obviously if they stick at it. Neil definitely approaches teaching adults or teenagers better than I do. Not saying that I don't enjoy it or don't do it well, it's just personal preference. But for me, it's just being able to see someone achieve a challenge that they were maybe scared of or thought that they couldn't do, and then seeing them complete it gets me more excited than completing challenges myself, I think. And I think that just stems from, one, being how long I've been a coach for, and two, being a parent as well. That's kind of been a big change in my parkour career. Is that the right word to use? Not really a career I get paid for, but yeah.
Yeah. And so for people who aren't watching, can you describe the gym a little bit?
Yes.
Where you are?
So we are situated just off the motorway, which is just on the way into Grimsby, the M180. It's quite a relatively small space. I think the whole building is around 200 square meters, feet, 200 something. It's not a very good description. But yeah, we're not the size of a Nova City or a Fluidity. We're much smaller, but we have taken that into heavy consideration with how the gym is designed. We've got some structures that are almost definitely set in place, and they are primarily around the edges. So we've got a couple of things in different corners and things that are coming out from the walls, and we have a central tower as well, because we have a awkwardly big post, support post in the middle of the room. You might be able to just see that behind me. But we also have a lot of equipment that we've built in ways that we can potentially change in the future. So it's not totally freeform, but it's been built in a way that it can be easily moved and easily taken down. So we'd like to go on, we're planning to be on every 6 months, the gym will probably look somewhat different. The whole thing won't be different, but even slight changes can create a whole avenue of new movements. And we've just had some new additions put in the gym for those who have already been up to us. We've kind of got like a vault section and almost like a cat leap arm jump 180 section now, and a turn vault corner. So we've added quite a lot in recent months.
And how did you find inspiration from the design? Like, how did you? Because you had the space, it was empty.
Yeah.
What did you design it around movements you had in mind, or did you design it based on inspiration from other gyms, or?
So when we were in the creative building process, we definitely took inspiration from different gyms, even small ones where they've maybe even got 2 blocks that they're doing cat leaps or 180s on. Just anything was inspiration. Just go crazy. Just create the most fantastic things you can think of, just the ultimate things. And then you kind of pick out the things that will be more useful. Another thing that I take a lot of take into consideration is obviously each city has its different scope of spots. So in our city, or not city, in our town, we don't have many spots that allow you to do vault prees next to each other or close to one another, or vault prees that are level, or diving vaults or things like that. So that was definitely an element we wanted to give the local community an opportunity to train on. Cat leaps and 180s is something that we don't have many of. Well, none that we've discovered anyway. So they're definitely things that fuel inspiration. Seeing other parkour spaces such as Nova, Fluidity, Level Up, Barnsley's Nova as well, they've definitely really given me the inspiration for different things. Watching so many different gym videos, a lot of the American gyms are the best I've seen. Obviously, unfortunately, unparalleled movement isn't open anymore, but I took massive amounts of inspiration, especially with how they were utilising things off of walls that weren't taking away from run-ups. Because I found that, especially in our gym, because it's quite small, having enough movement or obstacles in the space, but then enough for landings and run-ups is also a thing to contend with. So once we drew everything out, we came into the empty space, and then we almost just walked around, and we actually got some tape and taped out where we expected things to be. We taped up the walls, taped along the floor, and then that kind of gave us a better idea of, oh, okay, that thing isn't going to work here. And funnily enough, when we designed this park, the whole thing was the other way around. And then when we moved in, we realised that there was some shelving that was up along the wall that was housing some electrical cables. So everything that we wanted on one side of the gym was no longer allowed to be that side. So we had to move everything the other way, which seems strange now because I love the way the gym's set out now. And then just trying to get a bit creative and trying to give people opportunities so don't set something up so it's just one thing. Always think, right, this object could lead to this challenge. So what might be a vault pre could then lead into a different setup. So that's very much things that we've looked at, that we've implemented in the gym. It doesn't always go right. There are some things that once they were built, I kind of wanted to change them straight away. So it's definitely a learning curve. We learned this with the outdoor Parkour Park first, years ago, so that's kind of helped us be a little bit more, what's the right word, not fluent, but quicker at the process. So going from the outdoor space to the indoor space is kind of, we knew the things that we were missing from the outdoor, so we kind of wanted to give them on the indoor. Hence why our outdoor park has loads of scaffolding, loads of railings, but then our indoor only has a select few bits. So we wanted to have those two different options within the same town, really. Yeah,
and it's quite amazing that in one town you've got an outdoor park which is pretty big.
Yeah.
And now an indoor park as well.
Yeah, we've had the outdoor park for 8 years, I think, now. Had it for quite a while. So it's had its fair share of ups and downs. We've had a lot of criminal damage, which has been a major issue, which also kind of led us into wanting the indoor space even more. Obviously, parkour being something you want to do all year round, it's very difficult to do in the winter. So we wanted an indoor space for that, and an indoor space that we could control with damage and people coming in, because it was a struggle. There's been countless fires, things like that, floor being damaged, pulled up, bollards being ripped out of the ground. It's been a bit of an issue, but the park's still there, still open all year round. There's no fencing around it, which is part of our agreement that they never put a fence around it. So we want to kind of use both of them.
Mm. And so with the park as well, the indoor one,
yep.
Did you have it in mind, did you have coaching in mind as well? Or is coaching kind of, have you adapted your coaching to this? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you want it as a place of movement primarily, or was it kind of...
A bit of both, definitely.
How is it? Yeah, how is it coached?
So for me, being the person who coaches the most out of our team and coaching setup, I've got the most experience coaching out of the rest of us. And I was used to a room where there was the stackable tables that sit underneath each other, and soft objects, and a trampet, and a crash mats. So I've lived off that as my coaching setup. And obviously in a dojo, there are a whole host of movements that you cannot teach. One being cat leaps, because there's nothing to grab. Lache movements, swinging movements, and things that seem so simple like turn vaults. Turn vaults, you can't even teach them in a gym. In the dojo that we was in. So they were definitely elements that we needed to have them in this space, so we could definitely teach that aspect of parkour. So you're definitely right. The coaching side kind of directed our inspiration, but it wasn't the whole thing. I think a lot of the time when we're going to be rebuilding and rechanging shapes, I think that's where the coaching side of things will kind of inspire things like what things haven't we been able to teach. Like I know that we're looking at implementing some form of underbar / dive roll kind of setup. So we've got maybe like a ladder on the scaffold setup, so you can go in and out of the ladder. That's one thing we are considering. And
a bit more about you.
Okay.
So how do you feel at this point in your journey as a practitioner? How do you feel, you've got a lot of years behind you, but how do you feel about the future, and are there any things that you're aiming to achieve, or things that you want to do in parkour?
So back when I was in my teenage years, I was very much kind of influenced by a lot of, at the time I was lucky enough to call a lot of them friends, and I was definitely inspired to become a professional parkour stuntman or kind of thing like that. Obviously the teaching thing kind of came in, and I was doing a bit of that that I know a lot of people weren't doing, or kind of shied away from doing that in a professional way. But then life kind of got a bit serious for me, and I had to kind of put training on the back burner. I had to kind of move out from home, I had to get a job, which I did. I was working 80 hours a week, so I was too exhausted to even train. I trained here and there, but definitely not to a consistent level. If anyone is subscribed to us on YouTube, you'll see there's a kind of a couple year dip where we didn't kind of produce any content, things like that. But funnily enough, it was actually having my daughter that kind of made me realise that I shouldn't be working myself to the bone, and it's not worth working and not enjoying my free time, or what little free time I had, because I had all this money but I had no time to use it. So I kind of was still teaching and really wanted to kind of follow that as my passion, so I have stuck with it. Regarding things like competitiveness, especially within parkour, which seems to be an ever-growing subject that I'm sure you're going to go into, Sam, a little bit more at some other points, with obviously FIG and FIs and things like that. But I enjoy competition, but I do not let it fuel the way I train. I'm definitely more of, if I was going to ever compete, I would love skill or speed. Skill is something that we've even had our own skill competitions. I love seeing people complete challenges, and I think that's kind of the way I've always trained. I'm not the type of guy who's going to be doing double side flips or ridiculous cork prees or anything like that, or anything outlandish to that degree. So for me, it's just being able to control my movements, and if someone sets a challenge, being able to complete it. I've had some nasty injuries as well, which have kind of moulded the way I train. A couple of years ago, I ripped the tendon from underneath my foot off, disconnected. Had the bone connected to it still, but it totally came off, and I couldn't walk for 12 weeks. And then ever since then, my single leg strength hasn't been the same. So I do a lot of plyometrics and two-footed jumps and things like that. But I love doing that kind of thing, and that's definitely the way I always spot those challenges first, so to speak.
Cool. And any last thoughts for the future of reality?
I would
Team reality, sorry.
Team reality, yeah. We've added, in the past year and a half, we've added our first ever athletes that are not local. So, and they are Jordan Shaw from Thorn, who is quite prevalent in the Sheffield kind of parkour training scene, and also Ryan Kane from Hull, another city that's not too far away from us. We also want to give more opportunities to our students, possibly become coaches themselves, or even help them kind of get more noticed on the scene. We just want to give back. I think that's the point of my parkour career now, is giving back to the community, and that's the most important thing. I think passing down the correct messages.
Amazing. Okay, thank you everyone for watching or listening. Really enjoyed speaking with you, Jake. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming down. Thank you for coming and checking out the gym.
Yeah, no problem. If you want to check out Team Reality and Jake, all the links will be either above on Spotify or below on YouTube. Go and check that out, that'll all be there. If you're listening on Spotify, you can roll on to the next podcast, which was the last one, which is with Marcus Dell from 5th Unit. Really good conversation, and we also talked a little bit more about the North and South thing. So thank you, Jake. See you next time.
Stop. Bosh. There you go.
Thank you.
It's all right.